Hello, hello, and good morning. Happy Thursday, June 26th. It is the kickoff of the wedding of the century, Ted. I've got to run right after the show so I can get on board my private jet.
What are you going to wear?
Almost nothing, just like the bride. We're in Santa's. Inspired by the bride. You're tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI show for short, because we bring you way too much information. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rawl with producer Robbie in the background. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about Europe, actually. So first, we're going to kick off with the wedding of the century, the Bezos wedding in Venice, Italy. And then we'll kind of hang out on the European continent, which deliberately excludes Russia. But I guess technically that's right, Ted, because a lot of Russia is on the Asian continent. So
that's true.
So but anyway, we'll be talking about Europe a lot. And if we get some time, we'll talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is back here in the States, and a lot of hubbub about that. And if there is time, and this is a big if, we're going to talk about Homo erectus.
That doesn't sound right.
Well, human migration from Africa. There's this new scientific study that's out about, like, I guess, what did they do, Ted? Kind of like remapped or I don't know. They envisioned how people walked away from Africa and into, I don't know, everywhere else. If there's time, we'll get into that. But I suspect there's not going to be time, Ted, because there's so much to get into about all the big wigs in Venice and everybody else, on holiday in Europe. And the Europeans are not thrilled. So we'll talk about that. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to hit the like and the follow button, the subscribe button. I'm talking to you right there on YouTube. Even if you're hate watching, just subscribe so you're reminded to pop on when we're on so you can throw shade at us in the live chat. But you guys will never top the Rumble room. I'm just saying. The Rumble room is where the conversation is at. It gets spicy and people really have full-blown we have a full-blown community, I would say, over in Rumble. But
I mean, that's true. No,
it's true.
But YouTube has really come into its own on this show.
They're getting there. There are a couple regulars I'm seeing in there, like Lo Aller, I think is regular. Mm-hmm, we see in there a couple other people. Right. Mm-hmm. So shout out to them as well. Hello. But we have a thriving Rumble room. So if you're somebody that's like interested in actually having
YouTube thrives.
Meaningful conversation. No, it's mostly shade on YouTube. There's a lot of haters on YouTube that they just go on from show to show.
On Rumble too. Come on, be serious.
No,
they
love
YouTubers, you more than they love me. That's the deal on Rumble.
No, it's not that.
They're a bunch of like sexists. They're self-hating men.
The reason
they can't stand my butch masculine presence, and it makes them feel small down there, and so they're upset at me. And I understand that. That's fair.
No, the real reason I believe is because YouTube obviously dominates the market. It owns like 90% of the streaming market, and people kind of skip through channel to channel of whoever's live, and they listen for a couple minutes, throw some shade, and ghost. So I think that's what happens in the YouTube chat. Although, like I said, a few really cool regulars in the YouTube chat, but the Rumble chat, we have like literally a regular group of folks that go in there and they start full conversations. So if you are looking for that, that's where you go for that. But downside, YouTube has the shorts. So if you want to get some of the show highlights, YouTube has shorts. Rumble does not. Rumble is shortless. They got no shorts.
They're not wearing shorts. They're going commando.
Totally. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that, actually.
I don't know. I mean, let's be clear here. 99% of the watchers and listeners to this show are on YouTube Shorts. That's a demographic truth.
There's
because we live in a
viewership, I'm
country
sure.
where, people have 90 seconds to listen to watch something.
To learn a
Maybe
whole topic.
Not an hour. Or in our long-winded case.
No, it's that people have the attention span of a gnat, and they have been conditioned to be that way by a multitude of things. But
well, yes,
primarily
like YouTube.
Yes, but primarily YouTube and social media.
Sure.
But if you're interested in actual longer form, obviously Rumble is where it's at. I would say, because that's why they created the whole premium section, so that way people can have unfettered conversation
immediately after the show, but not live, so don't be confused. But very soon there will be a Rumble premium exclusive. Robbie and I are going to give you the lowdown on former Soviet Central Asia. Central Asia 101. If you ever wanted to know what the difference is between an Almaty and an Ashgabat, that's where you want to be.
And Ted, you guys have to explain why they kind of look like the where's Borat supposed to be from? Kazakhstan?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where actually most of the people look more like me than
True.
Borat.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Borat just kind of ruined it for like all the people there, because then people were like, I want to go to Kazakhstan, and they show up and they're like, wait a minute, they don't look like Sacha Baron Cohen, they look like Manila.
Well, thank God they don't look like Sacha Baron Cohen. He's a strange, odd-looking dude.
I don't think
Kazakhs are very good-looking people.
I've not been, and I do know one, and I would agree. I do know one, but I've seen pictures and stuff. So
oh my God, it's crazy. The first time I went there, I literally my takeaway was, there's a business here for someone who wants to recruit models from Kazakhstan and bring them to the U.S. There is.
Really?
Oh huh. Yeah, I mean, come on, like it's hot and cold, 5'11" girls with long legs and big boobs and purple eyes and black hair. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to do well.
Really?
In modeling, yeah.
Huh? I've never. Well, I mean, again, I've never been.
If you're wondering why I didn't do this, it's because I was waiting for this big opportunity to do the TMI show, and I didn't. I didn't want to like get distracted from my long goal.
Rather than becoming a Kazakh pimp.
I didn't say I was going to whore them out. I just said
tomato, Ted.
An agent. I'm not going to do it at all. Anyway, I'm not that kind of entrepreneur at all. I'm not interested. I just don't care about things where there's lots of things where I'm like, yeah, you can make a lot of money doing this and that. I love Shark Tank. 99% of those businesses, to be generous, probably more, I would just have no interest in being a part of, no matter how successful they were.
I still have to watch that. I forgot you recommended, because I've been looking for stuff to watch, and because it's summer.
Yeah, it'll keep you busy. If you live 2,000 years, there's so many shows. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Well, that's what, NBC. I seriously, like, I've seen a couple episodes. I know everyone's rolling their eyes. Like
NBC, the business one.
Oh.
And then there's reruns on another station. So.
Oh, okay. I need to find something to watch because it's summer, and for whatever reasons, Ted, all the studios.
Or the other way around. Maybe the reruns are on CNBC. I
like,
remember.
WTF with all the studios? Why don't they put out new shows during the summer? I don't get it.
It's vestigial. I never understood. Yeah, Robbie says you can watch Butenbot Gaming all summer long. I remember that when I was a kid, and it was broadcast TV, and everything was reruns in the summer, and I was always like, but
there's a market.
Watch TV in the summer.
They're home in the summer. Kids are home from school.
I mean, no. Look, NPR doesn't have news on the weekend. News happens on weekends. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, okay, people say there's no TMI show on the weekends, but if we got paid like NPR got paid, we'd do it all. We'd do it 7 days a week.
We would have a team if we got paid.
That's correct.
A big team, more than the three of us knuckleheads. But
yeah,
I always wondered that, being a kid from LA and where all the production studios were, because they're not anymore. That's the reality. They're not. But I always used to wonder why in the summer months, when people are going on holiday, kids are off from school, there is a market here to have like fresh shows. and that nothing is produced. Although I will give you guys a summer recommendation. If you guys, there is one show that does come back in the summer, which I love, on the Sci-Fi Network, and I think now they air them on Netflix. I think it's a funny, goofy, absurd show because it's Sci-Fi Network, called Resident Alien.
Oh, right. That's a good show.
I love Resident Alien.
That's a very funny show. Yeah.
It's very
By the way, new Shark
and
Tank shows are on
there.
ABC.
Oh, it's a Disney
Old
product.
ones, but you don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not like it's dated material.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's something I can watch. Okay. So anything else you guys got out there to recommend? I'll consider also. Jamarl had considered SG1. Black Mirror. Jamarl told me Black Mirror, and I tried watching like 2 or 3 episodes. I couldn't get into it.
So let me point you to the right episodes to start. Black Mirror is not one of those like just throw a dart at the board and see what happens.
Oh.
You really kind of have to. I would start with the one called I think it's called Downfall, or it's a social media one. That one will hook you.
I'll look into it. Jamarl swore that I would like it. I gave it 3 chances, like the 1, 2, 3 episode
San
1, 2, 3.
Also, it's 80s lesbian afterlife love. It won an Emmy. It's a big deal. It's a great episode.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll try it again.
There's a little list of them. I mean, or you could just start with the first one.
I did, and I didn't like it.
The one about the pig.
I saw the first 3.
The Prime Minister one
of season 1.
The Prime Minister of the UK.
The Prime Minister one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't love it. All right. So, there's that. So, speaking of more entertainment
and about anything in your life.
More entertainment and pigs. More entertainment and pigs in Venice. So let's start there.
Speaking of pigs, all right, let's just get to it. Jaws.
Let's start there.
Jaws, please. So obviously, if you're like Manila and I, you've already received your invitation to the wedding in Venice, Italy, of Jeff Bezos, who you know is the owner of the Washington Post, but more importantly, the owner of Amazon, and former TV journalist Lawrence Sanchez. The 3-day shindig has invited 200 to 250 guests. The estimated expense of this little gathering is $76 million. The exact location is not known for the wedding, but the reception will be at Arsenale de Venezia. That's a centuries-old complex surrounded by water on the city's outer edge. Guest list includes Oprah, Mick Jagger, Leonardo DiCaprio, Katy Perry, who's a fan of mine, by the way, and Ivanka Trump. Celebrities and their private jets have started landing in Venice. Kim Kardashian's Gulfstream G650 touched down at Marco Polo Airport Thursday morning. Khloe Kardashian and Kris Jenner were photographed with her boarding a water taxi. That's a $65 million conveyance, and it left LA about 10 hours earlier. The Kardashian previously attended Sanchez's bachelorette party in, where else? Paris last month. Missed that one, unfortunately. The girls left me out, which included a boat ride down the Seine, obviously. Then around 10 o'clock in the morning, Oprah's G700 landed. The Business Insider's reporter witnessed her and Gayle King, her not
Bestie.
girlfriend.
Boarding
a boat
not girlfriend.
Not girlfriend. They do not
girlfriend.
Lunch. No carpet bagging.
Besties.
No gash mashing at all. A G650 owned by James Murdoch, son of Rupert, also landed, as did one belonging to hedge fund billionaire and super pleasant person John Griffin. Bezos, the world's 4th largest person. There's
largest?
No, I don't know, not largest. Baldest. He's the 4th baldest person.
Probably
well,
true.
He's the 4th richest, right? So who is it? It's Musk, Clovis, and who's the 3rd one? I don't even know.
I think it's the guy that owns Louis Vuitton.
Oh Jesus, really? Okay.
A French guy.
Two of these two planes, the G700 and the G650, have been bopping around the Mediterranean. Currently, they're in Dubrovnik. That's in Croatia, right? Bezos and Sanchez kicked off their pre-wedding prenuptial celebrations this past Tuesday with a very mature foam party on his $500 million, that's $500 million for you math people, super yacht Koru.
Can I just point out,
Croatian
Ted,
coast. Yes, please.
that these foam parties, do you know that they are a cesspool of STDs to spread?
What? You
Yeah.
mean like it's made of jizz?
No, so these foam parties,
foam is just jizz.
It could be.
I'm going to keep saying that over and over.
The foam parties, I'm going to say, originated like in the 90s in LA when I was partying, right? And then I started, there were murmurings in the LA party scene, and then down in Mexico, murmurings that because the foam, obviously it's wet and it's warm,
Yes,
and it's kind of cruising around everybody's genitalia, and you're in a club, let's say in Rosarito, Mexico, in like 1999. The warm cesspool of foam is just just gathering everybody's STDs.
Why would it be near your genitalia? Are these people naked?
No, it's just that the foam, it comes up to roughly like waist level. So it's just kind of.
So is this conjecture, or are there peer-reviewed scientific studies?
I remember reading some stuff about it back in the early 2000s, and so for the most part, by the mid 2000s, they stopped doing them in LA and Las Vegas because allegedly people were saying
there's a massive STI outbreak at this event. I want them to have
on Bezos's $500 million yacht.
STIs. I want them to have like dick COVID and ass COVID and everything, all the COVIDs.
So I just think it's unhygienic and unsanitary, and you guys know how I feel about hygiene and sanitation.
Yeah, you're weird.
It's gross. It's gross.
I just think foam parties are gay in that middle school kind of way.
It is so like an 18-year-old partying in Rosarito.
It's true.
Not a 66-year-old billionaire party on his $500 million yacht. It just weird.
Attendees were told not to provide gifts because, after all, the man who owns Amazon already has everything by definition. And if he doesn't have it, he can order it from his own company at an employee discount. But anyway, they donated to the city in the guest. Please donate your donations to the happy couple to the city of Venice. Water levels are expected to rise half a centimeter per year. Parts of the city will be permanently underwater by 2150. Protesters of the anti-tourism movement and wealth inequality are demonstrating against the wedding under the banner "No Space for Bezos." So here's the thing. We do need to. I do want to talk about the anti-tourism movement a little bit because that's really picking up.
Yeah, that'll be the next.
That could be pertinent to ordinary, real Americans who don't deserve to get STIs, who might want to be thinking about traveling to Europe.
Ugh.
Maybe you might want to reconsider your plans. Stay here in the good old U.S. of A., or maybe go somewhere else where they're more welcoming of Americans. Right now, that list is shrinking due to Donald Trump. But, we'll get there at some point. Robbie says, go come to Montana.
That's true. But this is hypocrisy, Ted. This is what we're looking at as like elite hypocrisy about,
what's
you got to be green. You got to be green. You got to ride bikes.
Bezos never said that. There's no hypocrisy.
No.
He's never
No.
said
He does.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely does. He owns the Washington Post that pushes all of that all the time.
Literally probably is more responsible for cardboard production than anyone else.
That's right.
On the
and
planet.
I was just so not only does he own the Washington Post and they are always pushing for like green whatever movements, but then secondly, even with Amazon, they always put out these, like, you get emails about like Amazon's climate pledge and why they, they're trying to do sustainability efforts and why you should group your purchases all together for the week and then get it all in one package to lower the carbon footprint.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We as the consumer have to lower our carbon footprint so he can cruise around in his freaking Gulfstream, darting around from city to city in Europe and have a gajillion-dollar wedding to, the less than ladylike Lauren. Like I don't foresee King Charles calling her Lady Sanchez.
Lady Sanchez. Okay, hypocrisy is a thing, but let's face it. The real problem here is that this is a guy who became super rich by being a shitheel. Okay, and what I mean by that is this is someone who created an empire based on overworking and underpaying thousands of workers in non-air conditioned spaces, abusing workers, and in a very predatory way, driving at first bookstores, at you name any number of other businesses out of business. I mean, it's really sinister. I mean, literally, he did, and Apple does this too, but literally, it's like, okay, so they encourage entrepreneurs. Oh, you have a cool product, put it on Amazon and sell it through Amazon. Then Amazon keeps track of the metrics of what's selling well, and they're like, oh, Manila Corp is producing this very popular STI proof party foam, and I'm gonna
STI proof panties.
Or, for example, even better. And so, oh my God, that's doing really well. Oh, let's copy exactly what she's doing. We'll undercut her prices on the very same platform that she's paying us to do. And then we're going to drive her out of business and steal her market share. Rinse, lather, repeat. That's what he does. I mean, so all capitalists are predatory shitheels, but he's the biggest, shittiest, most predatory motherfucker of them all. And so that's why, this is why God invented the guillotine. Just saying. So in terms of the wedding is just a reminder that when he pokes out his head, he pokes out his head of his little hidey hole like a marmot. And we're like, oh, yeah, you exist. We forgot to guillotine you. But like, oh, yeah. We're reminded by that because you're running around, with blowing $76 million on marmot chow while the rest of us are starving. Italy is a stone's throw. It's about a 2-hour flight away from where tens of thousands of dead babies and women are lying rotting in the rubble of Gaza. It literally where people are currently starving to death by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And this display of conspicuous consumption is taking place kind of virtually right next door. It's really kind of the perfect split screen visual for what capitalism is. And it's why I'm a communist. It's like, no one should have $76 million to spend on a wedding while other people are starving to death. Now, I want to be clear, the people in Gaza aren't starving to death because they're broke. They're starving to death because even if they have all the money in the world, the Israelis won't let them have food to buy. But still, the point remains the same. It's disgusting, and it should offend anyone with a basic sense of fairness and decency. There,
yes,
rant over.
That's fair. I mean, this again, remember at one point he was the richest man on earth at one point. Mm-hmm. We should pull up that list, Ted. You've got a list. You've got a window to open. I've got a million windows open because of the videos. But so Elon Musk, I feel like the Louis Vuitton guy is in the top.
Oh, is it the Zuckster? I forgot about
Zuck?
it. Zuck is number 2.
Zuck is number 2?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Larry Ellison, Oracle.
Oh, no kidding.
And you were right about Bernard Arnault.
That guy.
But he's actually, according to this list, he's number 5. But, these things are subjective. Then you go to Warren Buffett.
Zuck is the second richest man on earth?
Then you go to Warren Buffett, Larry Page, Sergey Brin.
Sergey.
Whatever. If you're rich, you don't deserve to have your name pronounced properly. Amancio Ortega, which is the parent company of Zara. He's the founder of Inditex. I didn't know Zara was so profitable. Steve Ballmer, former CEO of Microsoft, who I've never heard of. But anyway, yeah.
Really? You've never heard of him?
No.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer could break into my house and steal Clovis. I wouldn't be able to tell the police
huh.
who did it.
No, yeah. I don't know what he looks like.
Even
like
if he gave me his name, he left his card.
I couldn't pick him from a lineup, but I do know his name. He was never the face. He was never the face of Microsoft, Ted, which is saying a lot because he said, "Here, Bill, you be the face. You're the better looking one." So
Mm-hmm.
he had Bill Gates be the face. He's so charismatic, Ted, that Bill Gates. As we know, according to the Epstein files, at least some that have been released, the ladies love some Bill Gates. Not true. Not true.
Anyway, so there's also the question of why would he, like, nobody knows what happened between him and his wife,
Mackenzie,
who everyone agrees seemed great and was with him from the very beginning.
And she's like a tech sciencey person also.
Who knows? She might be problematic. Maybe she was mean to Jeff. We don't know. I mean, maybe she. No,
we don't know.
She made him lose his hair.
I've seen pictures of when they first started dating. He was already like Homer Simpson. So
maybe it's not her.
When he was like 25, I think they met when they were like.
And then there's the question of like, what's with that first name of hers? Strange.
Mackenzie?
But yeah, Mackenzie. Yeah, it's not Kim, is it?
That is a gender neutral name, Mackenzie.
Oh, you're saying so she might be trans.
That's a Mackenzie. What's wrong with that name?
What do you mean? It's a last name pretending to be a first name. That's what's wrong with
it. I've heard worse, but I think it's gender neutral and first or last name neutral.
Okay, so anyway, the point is, here's the man who literally has everything. Literally. He could have any number. He could purchase any number of women on the open market.
A beautiful Kazakh woman?
For example. Or a beautiful Iranian woman. But instead, he chose to go, what's the politically correct term? Skank. That's the word that I decided to go with.
Lauren is very... Skank. She's okay. So back home, so like 20,
who knows?
20,
She might
let's
be
say
great
estimate.
In the sack. Who knows? She might be great. Might be funny.
20 years ago,
she's helping him heal from the abuse that he suffered from Mackenzie.
20-ish years ago, thereabouts, back home, she appeared on Fox News Local on the morning show. And even back then, when she was...
Good morning, Los Angeles. This is Lauren Sanchez.
She appeared one day with an already big set up front, which was like new.
Which she was born with. They looked like that when she came out of the womb.
Yes, I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah. So there's this new bombshell on TV, and she seemed really cute and funny and sweet. And I thought, wow, that's a look that's not common for a morning news show. You know what I mean? So maybe now, but not then. Looking kind of porn star-ish.
Boobulous.
She was boobalicious first thing in the morning. And that, if you think back 25 years ago.
That will wake up roughly 45% of the population.
Yeah, but 25 years ago, like that wasn't the thing 25 years ago. So, but she seemed nice. And I thought, well, whatever. She's hot. She has this, LA porn star look. Like, okay, fine. She goes on to have a couple, I don't know if they're marriages or spouse. I don't know. But anyway, she has a couple kids from a couple different men. The last one being, I forget his name, an NFL player. Surprise, Ted, surprise. Her previous was I think her ex-husband, Tony something. An NFL player, has a couple kids, probably made off with some of that divorce money. And then she disappears for a while. She goes off the air in LA. We don't see her for a while. She was nowhere. And then boom, like 6 or 7 years ago, she appears on the arm of Jeff Bezos.
So it was Good Day LA. She was on.
That's it. That's right. Good Day LA.
Oh, she was also on The View, the most intellectually stimulating show in America.
Obviously, Ted. Obviously. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg couldn't handle her intellect, so she pushed her off, right. I think, into the waiting arms of Jeff Bezos.
I mean, frankly, they decided to go with Whoopi and her she was better looking than Laura. So
They went with a different look.
They had to go with the better look. Yeah.
They went with a different look. Anyway, issues with the view also. But anyway, I don't know what happened and how she wound up with Jeff Bezos. I'm not going to spill the tea that I spilled to you and Robbie, but I know some people that have. I'm 2 steps away from Lauren Sanchez's personal life, and let's just say there's some questionable behavior around how she not landed Bezos, but in the early aughts of their romance, there's some questionable behavior about how she managed to keep him there early on.
Okay, you're going to have to be, first of all, I'll give you some time to answer this question. You're going to have to answer that question. You can't leave that lingering there.
No, I said it in our private chat.
Like that fish that sits at the bottom of the ocean with the fake worm in its mouth, and you're going to just let it lie there? No. You're going to have to.
I'm just going to say.
So they met, by the way, in 2016 at an Amazon Studios party for the movie Manchester by the Sea.
While they were both married.
They were both married to others, correct. And they were apparently going to be working on some kind of joint collaboration, which I guess they did have a joint collaboration. That's what happened.
But I'm two people removed from.
All right, spit it out, Manila. We gotta have it.
No, all I'll say is some
the people demand to know
dirty photos.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't talk about that.
We can't.
No, because there'd be legal liability if we were to talk about that.
Yeah, so there's some naughty photos involved, and it wasn't Lauren.
Well, we know that, so that we can talk about that. So there are nudie pics of Bezos
Jeff
in compromising positions, shall we say? Those exist.
And yes,
and then he was
when the first leak,
he was being blackmailed. We will not say by whom.
Correct. The first leak.
But go ahead.
The source of the first leak is who I met this person once, but we share a mutual person, the first leaker. So that's all I'll say. And that the person that allegedly leaked them is somebody
who probably
I do know who leaked them.
Okay, all right. That's all right. So
anyway, I met the leaker one time. It's not my friend or anything. But.
I will give Jeff Bezos mad props for how he handled this. So basically, he was told, if you don't do what we say, or don't pay us, whatever, we're gonna leak these gross pictures of you. And he was like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm releasing them, and he did. And it was such a great move. I mean, I was on team. I said it at the time. I'm on Team Bezos about this. I mean, really? I would applaud him at his guillotining before this. Before the guillotining, not after.
He got ahead. He got ahead of the first tranche of naughty racy photo leaks, and then just went ahead and dumped the rest, and was like, "Yeah, I'm newly single, and
things got a little wild." Yeah, as can happen at the foam party.
Yuck. So anyway,
right, let's talk about
that's enough of that one. So
let's talk about the
tangentially related. Well, yeah, go ahead.
So
talk about Europe.
As we've talked about a little bit here on the show, in some European cities, there's been a lot of concern about over tourism. Long story short, it's very simple. If you've ever been to Europe in the summer, in particular, you probably had a hard time getting around. All the streets are jammed with traffic, even in the remote mountainsides. Everything is jammed up. You can't get a hotel room. Everything's booked. The beaches are literally elbow to elbow. So it's gotten for the locals to the point where they've just had enough. And they're saying that, look, we appreciate tourism, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So in some cities in Europe, they're trying to do things about it. So in Venice, where this wedding is taking place, they've instituted a fee. They've imposed a €5 tourist charge, and it brought in over 2.4 million euros, a little more than the mayor expected. In Spain, for example, This all got crossed out though. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because I have a video to play of a news reporter
all right,
covering
why don't
it.
you go ahead and play that?
And we can respond, because you have to say that for the Twitter censors. We have a video from a company called, a news outlet called First Post. I liked their reporting on it. I think it was very fair. And so we should comment about it, Ted.
Under the doctrine of fair use.
Correct. So this is their report, and I think it was pretty good.
And we end today in Europe. Spain is retracting the red carpet for tourists in an effort to curb overcrowding and skyrocketing rents. Cities like Malaga and Barcelona are slamming the door on tourists renting local properties. The Spanish government is hoping that fewer vacationers could mean more affordable housing for locals. But with almost 13% of Spain's economy being fueled by tourists, is this a sustainable option? Our final report takes you inside.
If you have ever dreamed of living in Spain, or maybe just spending a few weeks lounging on the beach with a sangria in hand, well, dream a little longer. Spain has decided to hit the pause button on tourism with a 3-year tourist ban. Well, kind of. It's not a full-on no-entry sign, but more of a please stop moving into our neighborhoods plea. While the beaches, historical sites, and endless tapas will still be there, some of the country's most popular cities have had enough of the overcrowding and rising rent prices caused by too many vacationers. For example, Malaga, the picturesque Mediterranean port city, has drawn a line in the sand. No new short-term rental properties will be allowed in 43 neighborhoods where vacation rentals account for more than 8% of the housing stock. The move, which started earlier this month, will be tested for 3 years, and it could very well become a permanent fixture in the city's efforts to curb over-tourism. And don't think Barcelona is sitting this one out. Plans are already in place to close down the city's 10,000 short-term rental apartments starting in a few years. After all, if you're paying a premium to live in a tourist hotspot, it kind of loses its charm when you can't find an affordable place to live because the locals have been replaced by a never-ending stream of Airbnb guests. So why this sudden shift? Well, it turns out that those Instagram photos with endless sunshine and vibrant street scenes come with a price. Crowded streets, bursting water supplies, and most critically, sky-high rent prices. Spaniards are starting to grumble about their once charming neighborhoods being taken over by tourists. And who can really blame them? In cities like Barcelona and Madrid, rent has surged, forcing locals to either move
I think we get the picture.
or just leave altogether. And let's not forget the 94 million tourists who visited Spain last year. They boosted the country's GDP, but also added fuel to the fire of frustrations for the locals. It's no longer just...
All right. So that's the gist of it, right? Is that is a lot of it has to do, Tad, with with the technology. Because I've been to all these places that they're talking about in Spain, as I'm sure you have too. Malaga, the last
been to Spain, but yeah.
You've never been to Spain?
Nope.
Okay. Spain, I always said if I had to move to a non-English speaking country, it would be Spain. I love Barcelona and the art scene and the food. Love it. Malaga, if you're looking for, if back then, if you were looking for a sleepy, beachy town, it would be Malaga. It had huge Moorish influence. The food is excellent because of the Arabic influence there. But Malaga, around 20 years ago, last time I was there in Malaga, it wasn't like that. It wasn't overcrowded. It was nice and sleepy. I can't believe that in the span of 20 years that it's completely just, it looks like this, like what's on screen, like elbow to elbow. When I was there, it was like you can wander around and hardly see anybody in Malaga. I'd be on the beach and just whatever. And I was there for work. It was kind of quiet and peaceful. In fact, I was there with, as a journalist with Audi. Audi took me. They wanted a female journalist's opinion because there weren't many female automotive journalists, and I came from the auto industry. Not that I'm some motorhead, but they invited me because there were very few female journalists that knew anything about cars. So they took me. So I went. I got to rip around Malaga. Okay, it's a mountainous and beachy town. I got to rip around Malaga in the brand new Audi R8. It was the V12. It's a supercar, right?
Oh, well.
I could rip around town with it because there was nobody there. But apparently now there's like a gajillion people hanging out in Malaga. So I understand the complaints coming from the locals, and what the technology has done, like Airbnb, and the story highlights that, is that they're renting out these homes that would otherwise be actual homes for the Spaniards, right? Like they're Spaniards and they want to live in Spain and they want to live in their towns, but they can't because, and Ted's going to say capitalism, but capitalism, the owners, the people that own those properties are renting them out back to back to back to back for tourism purposes. And so people, kids, you become 18, 19, 20, whatever years old, and you're looking to rent out on your own, you can't afford to because Airbnb has taken up all of the would-be rental properties. So that puts a lot of downward pressure on the locals, Ted. I mean, Robbie knows firsthand about that because he always complains about Montana becoming a playground for rich Californians. And I mean, he has firsthand living experience of this exact thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is it's worth considering as an American whether you want to be part of this. I don't understand why people want to go to Europe in the summer anyway. Take it from me, it sucks in the summer. And by summer, I really mean after June 15th till late August. You can go in early June; it's still okay. But after that, forget it. I mean, you're going to be sitting in traffic. It's all lines. Any tourist attraction you go to see, you're sitting in the heat. Europe's a lot hotter than you think it is, and in the summer. So just don't do it. If you want to go to Europe, which is of course always, a primo destination, do it at another time of the year. It doesn't get that cold in most of Europe, so you can even go in February in France. You probably won't see a single snowflake. It'll be fine. It might be in the 40s or whatever.
It's cold.
It's not cold though.
But it's not like freezing. It's not like New England
need a sweater
winter.
And a jacket. That's it.
It's not. Robbie's laughing. Okay, we got to add Robbie to the screen, obviously, because he knows cold. But Robbie, you know firsthand about what the experience is like to have over tourism in a place that was once home to locals, like you in Montana. Like you said, Montana is now like mountain California. It's the Californians, the rich Californians moving in, buying up vacation homes that would otherwise be homes to regular people. And there's no new construction happening for regular people. And the same complaint is happening in Spain.
Montana is the new Spain. Spain is the new Montana.
There's a reason why the show Yellowstone was popular, is because that touched on a lot of truth. So it's a fictional story wrapped up in a lot of the issues that's going around. Like the town that I'm in, when I moved here back in 2010, the population was a hair over 10,000. It's pushing 30,000 now. That's unsustainable. And so as property values and stuff goes up, new houses are being built. And a lot of the farms and ranches around here, they're actually being pushed out because they can't afford the property taxes. And so what they're doing is that they're taking these farms, or what they're doing is setting up dude ranches, that kind of thing. And it's Montana's turning into a playground for people with a lot of money, and it really sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we should try to hit another topic because we only have a few minutes left here.
All right. Thanks for that, Robbie.
Let's go on in. All right. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is expected. This is really talk about catch-22 on catch-22 squared. He's going to be released from jail in Tennessee today, but then ICE motherfuckers are waiting to nab him the second he's released. So he's the guy from El Salvador who was had a court order protecting him from deportation to El Salvador because he was afraid of gangs. Trump accidentally deported him with a bunch of other dudes to El Salvador anyway. Trump admitted that it was a mistake, shouldn't have done it, but nevertheless refused to bring him home, said that there was no way to bring him home. Then the courts ordered the U.S. to facilitate his return, and they did. So he's back in the United States. Now he's in Tennessee. On Sunday, Magistrate Judge Barbara Holmes ruled that Abrego Garcia doesn't have to remain in jail ahead of these new charges that the Trump administration ginned up that claimed that he was involved in human trafficking. To be clear, this is an extremely flimsy case. Might be true, but it doesn't look like a case that he would be likely to be convicted for. So she said, okay, he can be released on bail. And those conditions of release are going to be announced any minute now. However, the defense and prosecutors both say that Department of Homeland Security ICE goons wearing masks, unidentified, are waiting to pounce on him as soon as he gets released. This is the same sort of thing we've seen play out in courts around the country. In addition, federal prosecutors are trying to appeal the release order. So this is a big, hot, complicated mess. Holmes said previously she won't step between the DOJ and HomeSec, and it's up to HomeSec to decide whether they want to deport him or prosecute him. And they do want to deport him, but they can't deport him to El Salvador because of a series of rulings. He has a ruling that has been affirmed that says that he faces a credible threat from gangs. Hilariously, Trump had claimed that he was a member of the very same gang that he was afraid of. But under a new ruling, under the Supreme Court, he can now be deported to a third country he has nothing to do with, as long as that country agrees him to not send him to El Salvador. He could very well be deported to a war zone like South Sudan. I'm not even kidding. That's one of the places they're sending people now. It's an active conflict zone. And they can send him there or anywhere else in the country, in the world, except El Salvador. I mean, they could just release him pending the charges and let him face his trial. But of course, the feds don't want to do that because they know they're going to look silly when that case fails, and they're going to have to let him go. So anyway, that's where things go. This all goes back to a 2022 traffic stop for speeding in Tennessee. Abrego Garcia was driving a car with 9 passengers. At his hearing, he testified. Homeland Security Special Agent Peter Joseph said that he actually never really investigated Abrego Garcia at all. At the time, it was only when the Trump administration drew a bead on him that they decided to gin up something against him. That happened April, just 2 months ago. So that's what's going on here. I mean, it's just a reminder that when the state targets you, they sink their teeth into your ass and they don't let go, and they break all their own rules, and they break their own laws that they instituted, and they do whatever the fuck they want. And I want to be clear here. This has nothing, as far as I'm concerned, this topic has little to do with the issue of deporting illegal immigrants, even though, of course, obviously, that's what's involved here. What this has to do with is due process, and the fact that that everybody, every human being, whether they're a citizen or not, is entitled under the Constitution to equal treatment under the law. And the administration has chosen not to give this guy that. To the contrary, they fucked up, and rather than own it and make a little bit of redress, as he's entitled to, they're fucking with him further to cover up their own fuck-ups. And so it's a bad look for the Trump administration. If you're pro-deportations of illegal immigrants, to the contrary, it literally undermines your cause, because there's more sympathy for people like him because of the way they're being treated. So if you're, Americans for Americans only, you should be against what is happening to this guy.
Well, you already know my position on that just the way we've been basically kidnapping people off the streets. Anyway, we have to hit a word from our sponsor today, Ted. There's a timer. There's a timer we gotta meet.
All right, put it up, please. Is it up? Okay, here we go.
It is up.
All right, if you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, please check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures. If you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts, then get on Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots like me, Ted Rall, on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. All right. So,
All right.
Your thoughts, Manila, before we move on?
Oh,
about
just
about
that
Kilmar?
As we know from being friends with John Kiriakou, when the U.S. government decides that you're in their crosshairs, they're going to put the full weight of the U.S. government on your chest until you cannot breathe. So this poor kid, outside of, we already know what Robbie's going to say, but we don't have that much time for to get into that again. But
Robbie's got to save his throat for the Central Asia segment.
Outside of the initial break of the law coming here illegally, he's been here without any other incident other than like maybe getting pulled over in that video that we saw. But I mean, everybody gets pulled over.
I've been pulled over. You've been pulled over.
Everyone gets tickets. Everyone.
Yeah, and they didn't shoot. And more to the point, he didn't do anything that was chargeable at the time, or at least seriously chargeable.
No, so this just sucks for this.
He's been living peaceably and peacefully in this country with his wife and kid.
I know.
So
I think he has a couple kids. Like he's like 29 years old, married, has like 2 kids or something like that. But he's been here for I don't know how many years. I think he was a teenage undocumented person, so he's been here a long time. Ted's got to go get something apparently. But yeah, outside of that, he hasn't. This Kilmar guy isn't allegedly. The U.S. government is alleging that he's some sort of. Ted's got to go get Clovis. The U.S. government
there was a Rumble chat request from Ray for Clovis.
Oh, I see.
So
the U.S. government has alleged that he's some gangbanger and that there's some racketeering and human trafficking. Like he's not P. Diddy, okay? Like this dude is some just random illegal migrant that has otherwise been here peacefully and just got married and has a family, and just is trying to work in Maryland. So it just sucks for this kid. And honestly, Ted, I just don't see any way out for him, and his family will be destroyed.
He's fucked.
He's fucked. He's going to have to go somewhere else. You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
They're going to put him in a gulag. My bet is South Sudan. I'm not even kidding.
Well, I don't know. All right. Last story. Let's move to our last story. We got a couple minutes.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it after all. All right. So the human species arose in Africa 300,000 years ago. And obviously we're all over the place now, reaching some very remote places. But the question has always been, how did that happen in prehistory, considering the technology that they had? Well, part of the answer to that question is an experimental voyage across the East China Sea, paddling from Ushibi, eastern Taiwan, to Yonaguni Island, Japan, in a dugout canoe, which is just a log that you cut and you split the long way, and then you dig out a hole in the middle, to demonstrate how people 30,000 years ago spread across the Pacific Ocean. I've always thought it was amazing. A lot of the native indigenous Taiwanese are Polynesians, and they came from places like Tahiti and Micronesia, many thousands of miles away. There's evidence that people came all the way across the Pacific Ocean from there, even to like Easter Island and western part of South America. So how did this happen? Well, the researchers decided to do it themselves. They simulated the methods that the Paleolithic people would have used. They used the same kinds of tools, like an axe and a cutting implement called an adze. They created a 25-foot long canoe. They chopped down a tree in Japan. A crew of 4 men and 1 woman paddled the canoe on this voyage. It lasted about 45 hours, going about 140 miles across the open sea and battling one of the world's strongest currents. The crew was, as you imagine, pretty tired. They had to take a break for several hours while they drifted at sea, but they did make it. They navigated by the sun and the stars, just the way the ancients would have done. They also followed the direction of the ocean swells. But there were 2 escort craft just to make sure that they didn't die and fall over and get eaten by saltwater crocodiles. Yonaguni is part of the Ryukyu chain of islands of Japan, which stretch from Kyushu, the southernmost of Japan's 4 most main islands, all the way down to Taiwan. They had tried this before using reed rafts and then bamboo rafts, but they were too slow and not strong enough, and they couldn't overcome the current. So it was trial and error. University of Tokyo anthropologist Yosuke Kaifo said that we found that the Paleolithic people could cross the sea with the strong ocean current if they had dugout canoes and were skillful, experienced paddlers and navigators. They had to face the risk of being drifted by the strong ocean current and the possibility that they would never be able to come back to their homeland. But maybe their homeland wasn't that great. Who knows? Archaeological evidence indicates that those people crossed about 30,000 years ago from Taiwan to some of the Ryukyu Islands, which include Okinawa. But they used to not know how they did it. Now we kind of have a pretty good sense of how they did it. One question I would have for the researchers is, how do they know that the currents are the same now that they were then? There's been significant climatic change over the last 30,000 years. But otherwise, it's super interesting.
With the ocean levels rising, and then there are estimates that New York City could be underwater. Los Angeles, same thing.
That's why I don't get a ground floor apartment.
Is that how you're going to do it?
I don't want the cat to float away.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of that. I don't know. There are so many theories about how today's civilizations in various parts of the world really came to be. I would say that's just one of them. I don't know, and I know we don't have time for it, but I know Robbie's going to say Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. And
probably not. Yeah, probably not.
That would not have worked, Adam and Steve.
We wouldn't have we wouldn't have, the story would have been a short one. Let's put it that way.
Yes. But yeah,
there's
just so much we don't know.
Much less drama.
There's so much we don't know about how we all came to be in all these different parts of the world. And I do lean more subscribing to the Jesuit view of, that God made Adam and Eve, but then kind of created more after that, if in other places.
Yeah, I don't believe in any of that shit, but whatever.
So I don't know. There's just there are so many different worldviews about that. And because I'm not a sciencey person, I'm an artsy fartsy person. And Ted, you at least have a little bit of that sciencey background of, what you were interested in and, like math and sciences when you first went to the now non-credited university.
That's right.
Columbia. At least you started out with some like math and science. It was never
me and Mayor-elect Mamdani.
Ah, that's right. Both of you. Mm-hmm. Totally uneducated.
That's true.
Your credentials have been taken away. Not really my thing. I've just read many different theories, and they're all still theories because no one can actually.
Well, that's what's interesting about it, right?
Fully prove it.
The thing about science is there is an answer. But we might not know what it is, and it feels like
we're just not there yet.
We feel like we live in an era where we really do. Everything's been discovered. We really do have all the answers. Everything's been mapped, but that's really not true. There's a lot of the bottom of the oceans are still a mystery. there's still some parts of the earth, not very many, admittedly, that no human being has ever stepped foot on. There's still some stuff that is left to be discovered, but history is a huge part of it, right? I mean, there's no recorded history,
Right.
that goes back really beyond 4,000 years, and so it's a short story, but we've been around hundreds of thousands of years, probably, and so we're discovering more and more, and that's what's cool.
Well, roughly
the fact
five.
that we don't know everything is great. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm okay with saying I don't know. It could be the creation story. It could be the migration story. I'm okay with saying I don't know.
It can't be the creation story because we have scientific evidence that says that there are things that are significantly more than 8,000 years old.
Well, I will say in Asia, like Chinese culture, Lao culture, there is roughly 5,000-ish years worth of some kind of recorded history documented. I know this because I'm doing that research documentary podcast, audio doc. But anyway, that's up for debate. I know Robbie feels strongly about the whole Christian view of the... A lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't know. But at the end of it, we all look like that, like dancing idiot skeletons underneath there, and we're all the same, Ted. That's all I can say.
Fascinating stuff. All right, so thank you, everybody, for listening. Like, follow, share the show. Please, 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 please.
Please hit the subscribe button.
You can do that through YouTube or through Rumble. And we are going to be back tomorrow. But I don't know when we're going to dump the Central Asia 101 piece. But Robbie
it's just going to be Robbie and Ted talking about hot chicks in Central Asia.
No, we're not going to be talking about... Well, we might talk about hot chicks in Central Asia. But we're going to be talking about Central Asia. And by that, we're talking specifically about Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Xinjiang, which is Western China. That's Central Asia. Oh, and I guess you can count technically northern Afghanistan as well. But that is Central Asia.
That is true. That is true. I have an Afghan friend who always said Afghani. So for him, I'll call him. But he said he's Afghani. He would always say it.
Well, then he's not from Afghanistan.
No, he's from Afghanistan.
Wait, he was born in Afghanistan.
Yeah, he's from Afghanistan. And he would always...
So he's like Mackenzie. He's confused.
I would say Afghani. So for all intents and purposes of respecting Waleed's wishes, I'll say Waleed is Afghani.
Afghan. You're an Afghan. Afghani's the money.
And he would say... And one time I referred to him as Middle Eastern, and he was like, I'm not Middle Eastern.
No, he's right about that. He's not.
I'm Asian. And I was like...
Afghanistan is not in the Middle East.
I guess technically you are. I thought about it and I went,
it's not technical. Right. It's not.
Well,
it's not. It's just not. Even though it borders Iran, and that's a Middle Eastern country.
But right. But the whole point is, well, no, they call themselves Asian too. I know a lot of Persians who refer to themselves as Asian.
So Robbie's right. I mean, they live in Asia, right? But ethnically, they're not Asian.
Right. So Waleed was saying.
I mean, Russians live in Asia.
Is Asian,
but
technically.
Not all Russians are Asian.
He said Afghanistan is on the Asian continent. I'm Asian.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So, henceforth, I said...
say the same thing about
you're
Saudi
Asian.
Arabia. But, yeah. And, these things are all stupid. Like, why is it even called the Middle East? What do you mean the Middle? Well, we know why.
Well,
it's the historical
reasons.
Why is the Midwest called the Midwest? It's not even the middle of the western part of the country. The Midwest should be like the Rockies.
Europeans consider Indians and Pakistanis South Asian. I mean, technically South Asian they are, right? I get it. But they broadly consider them Asian, whereas within the Asian community, we consider East Asians Asian and not the subcontinent. Mm-hmm. Even though technically that would be correct. Mm-hmm. So there's this whole thing. Anyway, that's what Ted and Robbie are going to talk about. Thank you for joining us.
Get out of here. Go.
I got to run. Adios, amigos. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.